Howdy, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Dunn,
And this is Miss Sarles.
and today we're going to be talking about plotting points on the coordinate plane. So you have plotted points on the coordinate plane in 5th grade. Most of you plotted just in this first section right here where all of your numbers were positive, but we've started talking about integers, and those include negative numbers, so we're going to be dealing with all 4 quadrants. So your piece of paper, you should have cut out this grid and this grid down here, and these 4 little pieces, those are going to be glued in. So a coordinate plane is made up of 2 number lines that are just intersecting. So we have a horizontal number line, this one right here, this is what we call the x-axis, and we have a vertical number line, that's what we call the y-axis. Make sure you label that. Okay, and if you look, each of our axes have different sets of points. Now, I have some pluses and minuses and minuses and pluses. Why do you think, Ms. Sarles, that we have our plus and minuses in different orders?
We have them in different orders so we can tell where we're going to plot them on our plane.
Okay, what is our first number that we should put here? Is that going to be my x value or my y value?
That'll be your x value because I always remember right in order, x comes before y in the alphabet.
Okay, so we have our x before our y, and if we're talking about putting on a point, we are going to walk before we climb.
Yes.
So of our 4, this plus, my x value is positive and my y value is positive.
Yes.
In which section we put these? We call these quadrants.
Well, I would put that in quadrant 1. It's going to be the top right-hand quadrant.
Okay, so I'm going to label that Q1, and I'm going to put this value right here. So this is just to identify where we see our values. We're not going to plot any points on this first one. Okay, this is a little strange because some of us think if we were talking about clockwise, this would be quadrant 2, but it is not. We go counterclockwise, and this is quadrant 2. So what numbers do I see for my x's and y's in that one, Ms. Sarles?
On your x's, we go negative, but the y's are still positive.
Okay, so I have here my x values are negative, my y values are positive. I'm going to put that little guy right there. Make sure you glue those down. Okay, now going counterclockwise, I have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, so I'm going to go down here to quadrant 3. And what are my values in quadrant 3, Ms.
In
Sarles?
quadrant 3, we still have the negatives for the x, and now we have negatives for our y as well.
Okay, so now we have both of them are negative. And I'm just remembering I'm labeling my x's and y's just so we get some clarification on that. And this would be quadrant 4. And what's left is that we have what?
We have a positive x and a negative y.
Okay, so I have my x's are positive, my y's are negative. Notice that each quadrant does have a set of examples that are completely different. So we can use this to help us figure out where we're plotting our points and if they should be in the correct quadrant. Okay, the next part is actually looking at a coordinate plane and plotting points and finding the values at those points. We can do this in all 4 quadrants. So notice this piece of paper, I've folded it and I've cut a line so that it folds together to make a blank. I'm going to label my quadrants here. So what would be quadrant 1?
Quadrant 1's going to be in the top right hand.
Okay, so I'm going to put Q1, and I'm going to remind myself those are positive x's and y's.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at Q1 to start with. It says that we need
Open it up a little bit.
yeah.
Some 0 numbers.
There we go. So we have a point A that we want to plot, and it's at 2, 3. So the 2 would be my x value, the 3 would be my y value. So when I plot that, I'm going to go over 2 and up 3. I'm going to plot that point, and I'm going to label it A, because that's what it tells me to do.
Right. And I liked how you just went over, showed it with your pen and up, but you didn't actually write on the grid.
No, yes. It has grid lines for me, so that makes it pretty easy. And if you need to, I definitely shouldn't use a pen. Use your pencil or use your eraser to go up or over and then up. Yes, because if you put too many lines on your grid, it just
It
gets
makes a mess.
so messy. Okay, I'm going to skip B because you're going to be doing that on your own. I will go to C. So I'm looking at point C. If we look here, okay, and it's X and then Y. So I'm going over before I go up. And how far over and up did I go, Miss Sarles?
You went over +6 and then up +2.
So over to the +6, up to the +2. So over here, I would label that 6, 2. And that tells me my coordinates. Okay, so I did A and I did C. You're going to be doing B and D. That's quadrant 1. Let's go over to quadrant 2. So I'm going to label it quadrant 2. Again, my values, my x's, now we're going in the negative direction, but my y's are still positive. And I'm going to do the same thing. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I is at -5, 4. So I go over -5, and I'm going to go up +4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have to keep my eye on that right there, and I'm going to label that I. That's point I. So I've done that one. You're going to have to label G on your, or J on your own. Ooh. And now I'm going to look at K. So Ms. Sarles, will you help me with K? What are my points?
Sure. K is here, so we would see along our x-axis first is at -1 and then a +2.
So -1, +2. All right. Quadrant 1 and 2 are done. I've done I and K. You will do J and L. Okay, now we are going down to quadrant 3. Both of my values are negative here. If you notice, my x's are negative and my y's are negative. This lower quadrant right here has all my negative values. It says M is at -4, -4. So my x's are going to be going over -4, and I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. And I'll put my point right there. It is at M. Okay, so that did M. And Ms. Sarles, you can help me with the point O. Where is that at?
Point O is right here, and so of course we're going to go over our x first, and it's at -1, and then we would go down 1, 2, 3, -3. So
Okay,
it's at -1, -3.
and you'll notice all of my x's and y's, they all are negatives. All right, so I've done M and I've done O. The last part we're going to do is quadrant 4. Now quadrant 4, I'm back on the positive sides with my x's, but I'm on the negative with my y's. Positive, negative. Okay. And it says we're going to plot point E. It is at 4, -5. So 4 positive. So I start at 0. I go over 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go down -5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This point right here, I'm labeling it E. All right. So I did E, and Ms. Sarles, what about G?
G is over here, so you're going to go across your x to +2 and then down to -1.
Okay, so if I plot that, it's +2, -1. And notice, all of my x's are positive, my y's are negative. So we have done an example of plotting and naming a point in all 4 quadrants. All of our numbers right now are integers. So they are positive and negative whole numbers, but could we have numbers that are not integers, Ms. Sarles?
We could have fractions or decimals. And if you were to do a fraction like 1/2, you would just go halfway between your two numbers.
And we're going to talk about those a little bit later, but we want to start off with the basics first. So I would like to make sure that you have done these extra pieces. That's 8 problems that need to be plotted and named. And you need to also do your whisk on the back. Please make sure that you write a sentence for that. And we will talk more about this in the next couple days. Thank you.